Most people watching XRP right now are focused on the price. That's the wrong place to look. What's happening inside Washington right now, behind closed doors, is something that could completely reshape how money moves across the entire planet. And XRP is sitting right at the center of it. Let me break this down for you clearly, because the mainstream media is not telling you the full story. Here's something most retail investors have never heard of: Federal Reserve master accounts. Think of them as the VIP backstage pass to the entire US financial system. For decades, only traditional banks were allowed to hold one. That meant every crypto network, every fintech company, every digital payment system had to go through a middleman bank just to touch the core financial rails of America. That created delays, extra costs, counterparty risk, and it kept digital asset networks like Ripple on the outside looking in. President Trump's latest executive directive is changing that directly. This order creates a formal legal pathway for institutional blockchain networks to integrate into the sovereign financial framework. In plain English, XRP and networks like it could soon interact directly with Federal Reserve payment rails. No middleman required. That's not a minor upgrade. That's a complete structural transformation. Because once Ripple's cross-border liquidity tools connect directly to central bank settlement systems, those billions of dollars currently trapped in slow, expensive correspondent banking accounts, what bankers call nostro and vostro accounts, start moving at the speed of the internet instead of the speed of 1970s banking infrastructure. Now here's where it gets interesting, because not everyone is celebrating this shift. On Capitol Hill right now, the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act is moving through the Senate. It passed the Banking Committee 15-9 in a bipartisan vote. That's significant. The bill's main goal is straightforward: define who regulates what. The CFTC handles digital commodities. The SEC handles digital securities. Clean jurisdictional lines for the first time ever. But traditional banks are not sitting quietly on the sidelines. The American Bankers Association has launched a full-scale lobbying campaign targeting one specific section of this bill, Section 404, which deals with whether stablecoin platforms can offer yield or interest-like rewards to users. Banks argue that if crypto platforms can legally offer returns on digital dollars, people will move their money out of traditional bank accounts. And that threatens their ability to make local loans, fund mortgages, support small businesses. Is that concern valid? Partially. But here's the other side. The White House's own Council of Economic Advisors reviewed the data and concluded that the immediate risk of deposit flight is significantly overstated. So what you have right now is a direct collision between legacy financial power and emerging digital infrastructure, playing out in real time through legislation, lobbying, and political strategy. The result? Over 100 amendments have been filed. The timeline has slipped. Prediction markets that once showed a 70% chance of this bill becoming law in 2026 have dropped to around 56%. That's not a failure. That's the growing pains of a trillion-dollar structural transition. And the battle isn't just in committee rooms. It's playing out in elections, too. Take Kentucky's recent primary. Representative Thomas Massie, a longtime independent voice on capital markets and digital asset policy, lost his seat to an administration-backed challenger. Massie had consistently supported decentralized frameworks and opposed heavy-handed institutional intervention. When you follow the money behind these congressional campaigns, the fingerprints of legacy banking infrastructure are everywhere. Major lobby groups, industry associations, and institutions like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which counts J.P. Morgan among its members, have been systematically directing campaign funding toward candidates who favor traditional, centralized oversight. This is what macro analysts call a backdoor regulatory strategy. Rather than debating XRP's technology in a public forum, where the evidence is overwhelmingly favorable, legacy banks are working through electoral and administrative channels to slow the momentum of competing infrastructure. But here's the critical point. The Trump administration's executive framework doesn't wait for Congress. By using executive authority to open Federal Reserve access points directly, the digital asset sector is actively bypassing legislative gridlock. The game is no longer just about passing a bill. It's about locking in foundational infrastructure before the opposition can mobilize.